What's up, everybody? Fantasy Firebox is back. It's Saturday. We used to do this every week, took a couple weeks off, but I'm back because I'm excited. I'm recharged. Every now and then, you got to take a couple weeks off and you got to just kind of, like I said last night on the Sharp app, you got to reflect a little bit and say, where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? What have I done? Take the good, take the bad, rehash it all, recharge, relax. Now I'm back. Fantasy football in 5 weeks has been unbelievably unpredictable. I think that's an easy way to say it. Guys that we thought were going to be consistent aren't. Guys that we thought were going to be consistent, some of them are, but some of them really have fell to the wayside. And I want to touch on all of that in this next half hour as we talk about some stars, some stiffs, season long, DFS, you name it, doesn't matter. Getting you ready for your matches tomorrow, which absolutely start in London again. So let's go right into that because a lot of question marks this week, right? A lot of question marks about, what are guys in Seattle going to do because of the Russell Wilson injury? Guys like Myles Gaskin on Miami, is he the real guy who gave you the 30, 40 point effort last week, or is he the guy who gave you the 0.3 effort the week before? Right? Who is it? Who knows? We're not sure. My boy Gene checking in from Wire to Wire. What's up, buddy? Gene, let me just say something before I go on. I thought I was one of the hardest working dudes in the biz, but you are unbelievable at what you do. Every time I turn around, there's a new preview posted, there's a new poll, there's a new trivia question, there's a new giveaway. You guys are doing phenomenal work, man, as always. And I'd like to take my hat off to everybody I know that's grinding in this game. So Wire, check it out. Great podcast. They do a lot of stuff, not just Philly sports talk. They do betting talk, they do fantasy talk, they do it all. Check them out. They are a really good crew over there. So let me just say 100% that, I have a different feeling about Geno Smith this week. Okay. I'm just going to get right into it. I know that I should not feel warm and cushy about Geno Smith in Seattle. And I honestly, listen, I'm not saying that this dude is going to go off, but I just have a feeling that he is going to come in and just do enough for Seattle to get by. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be every week, but when you seen him come in relief for Russell Wilson last week, he didn't look terrible. And this is a veteran coach. This isn't a rookie coach just throwing a guy in and he doesn't really know what to do or how to formulate a scheme. This is a guy who's been studying for the last couple of years, who understands what Seattle wants to do. And Pete Carroll is an old school coach who wants to run the ball anyway. So different week. No Chris Carson. It's going to be the Alex Collins show. And I hope you picked up Alex Collins when I mentioned it 3 weeks ago, when I said, look, even without an injury, he's really starting to get the split carries with Chris Carson, and he actually has a bigger explosion rate, and he actually has more mobility right now, and he looks like the better back. And unfortunately, Chris Carson out now is going to lay the reins indirectly to Alex Collins, not the way I wanted it, but I think he will prove to show that he's very fantasy relevant, and he can help you in the lineups, man. I'll tell you, yes, Gene, 100%. That's the first thing I was going to say. This isn't Tyler Lockett, right? This isn't Tyler Lockett. This is going to be the DK Metcalf show, 100%. G says picked him up because oh man, that means a lot, Gene. And again, I don't always. I said this last night on the Alternative Edge. Again. Sharp app, check it out. If you don't check it out yet, you got to check it out. Fantastic people over there. We got shows with Meltzer, Gargano, you name it. It's off the chain, man. You got to check it out. But what I did say about Alex Collins, in perspective is I don't just look at stats. And again, no, it's a fancy show and everybody's like, how do you not look at stats? No, I look at stats. I get it. But that's just not the only thing I look at. I watch the game. Right? I got the package, the NFL package, where I could break down all the games within an hour. And I watch how these running backs look. How do these receivers look? Just because they have a good game doesn't mean that I'm going to pick them up based on their stats. I want to see what they're doing, because sometimes a guy may have the best stats in the world, but you can tell he's outshining the other back. Right? And that, in my opinion, was the case with Alex Collins and Chris Carson. So I'm curious to see how Alex Collins is going to go. But I'll tell you what, And I know you mentioned DK Metcalf, Gene, but the one guy that I'm looking at this week, and again, we do listen. I'm not going to just talk about Devontae Adams and all the studs. We're not Derrick Henry. Listen, we all know how good they are, right? This show is about picking out values and picking out plays that we think are going to be really good. So, from a DFS standpoint, getting on the Seattle wagon, how about Freddie Swain for 3,400 at Pittsburgh? And I'll tell you why. Because I completely agree with Gene where he is going and Geno Smith is going to lean on DK Metcalf 100%. I think this does not bode well for Tyler Lockett at all. But what I will say is Freddie Swain is kind of that hybrid receiver in the sense that he can run a really good slant and he can get open, across the middle, and he can go deep. And I think Geno's going to try to show that he still has an arm. And for this game in particular against Pittsburgh, I really feel a deep game, a deep shot coming on for Freddie Swain. I called a few weeks ago the Freddie Swain, 3 for 79 and a touchdown. He did get 2 for 48 and a touchdown. He just didn't get the long ball. I'm going to predict the long ball this week. Okay, Freddie Swain for 3,400. I think he's a really good filler when you're doing your DFS line, strictly because I think Geno Smith is going to want to prove that he can go long. Mike, what's up, Mike? Check injuries, Mike. Injuries and COVID. Injuries and COVID are killing fantasy football right now. Absolutely killing it. I mean, you think about those top guys when we broke it down. And, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, your top 3 with McCaffrey, Cook, and in my opinion, Henry, who was my preseason top 3. You got 2 out of those 3 guys not even playing, right? And you have Derrick Henry just absolutely blowing it up. So very interesting. And watch my boy Austin Eckler. A lot of people were feeling a little kind of way when I said Austin Eckler is my number 4 running back in the preseason. But let me tell you, just relax. He's coming up the chain. My man Adam checking in. What's up, Adam? Was at the hockey game last night with Nikki Nuts from Flower and Ice on Heat Ratio Sports. My man checking it out. I love it. I love the camaraderie. But let's get it. Like, again, Freddie Swain, I like the pick. Again, this is a value play 100%, strictly because I think that Freddie Swain is going to have to help Geno Smith show off his arm, and I think that's going to happen. Now, let's go with a running back that I really like in Jamal Williams. Now, I liked Jamal Williams in the beginning of the year, strictly because I wasn't sure how much they were going to get DeAndre Swift. He's always a soft tissue injury away from hitting the shelf for a couple weeks, and I like the way that Jamal Williams played behind Aaron Jones in Green Bay, and I knew that, again, he was going to have the ability to take that split, take that share, and still produce as a really solid running back in Detroit, a team under Jared Goff that's going to want to run the ball a lot, right? Not a lot of weapons on the outside. They have to run the ball. One thing I want to tell you is, in respect to Jamal Williams, you're talking about a team he's going up against in Cincinnati who gives up the most receptions to running backs in fantasy. And one thing for sure, they are still hurting in Detroit at the wide receiver position. Tons of injuries. Now, the most recent in Cephas gets injured. Listen, I'm not believing in Khalif Raymond. I don't think he's going to take over the show. I get it. They have said Brown out there. I understand, but I think there's going to be a lot of throwing to the back out there. A lot of Hockenson, a lot of Williams. I still think Swift is going to get his time, obviously, but Jamal Williams this guy, this is what you have to look at. Even as a split running back, okay? Even as a split running back, he's averaging double-digit carries over the last 3 games, right? The one thing he isn't doing is getting the targets out of the backfield. Now, he got week 9, he had 9, week 1, he had 9 targets, and that's kind of what we expected. We expected those 4 to 5 targets that he got in Green Bay. Now, all of a sudden, they're going away. I think this week they come back, right? Not only was he going to get double-digit carries, but I think this week he gets double digit yards with about 6 to 7 targets because Cincinnati is so susceptible to the pass out of the backfield. So again, for 4,900, he could possibly give you RB1 numbers from a DFS standpoint, especially in this week. That Cincinnati-Detroit game, that could be one of those wild games where they throw up a lot of points, man. It could be a lot of points. Absolutely. Let's have a great weekend, Mike. Absolutely, dude. Let's have a fantastic weekend. I know it's supposed to rain a little bit today. That's okay. Not a big deal. Get out, enjoy the weather. Tomorrow's gonna be a great day. Every day above ground's a good day, my man. That's the way I look at it. Every day above ground's a good day. Let's go to a question. And let's talk about Buffalo with the Stephon Diggs regression and the Emmanuel Sanders rise. I love this. I absolutely love this. You know why? Because again, and I don't like to toot my own horn. Well, yeah, I do. Let's be honest. You hear me all the time. But that's because this is what I want to let everybody understand. The reason why I like to toot my own horn, okay, is because I get labeled as a hot takey guy that always has these takes and only half of them come to fruition and they're so ridiculous, so over the top. But somehow, some way, every year, most of them start to come into fruition. Most of them start to come true. So again, and nobody's tooting my horn saying, you know what, Jigsaw, you know what? Yeah, he was right with that. No, they're quick to jump on a Jigsaw wagon when I'm wrong. When I was talking about Corey Clement back in the day for the Philadelphia Eagles, they keep sticking those same narratives, but nobody gives the credit for the new narratives. Okay, in the beginning of this season, when everybody said Stephon Diggs, top 3, top 4 receiver, I told everybody, pump the brakes and relax. He is not going to put up the numbers that he put up last year. He will be flawed. Okay, they have more of an offensive presence this year when it comes to Emmanuel Sanders. Everybody needs to relax. Again, I'm not saying Stephon Diggs is not going to put up wide receiver 1 numbers, but people were drafting him as a top 5 receiver, and I told you the numbers would regress. And what's going on right now? The numbers are regressing. You have to look at it week to week. He's getting the targets. He's not getting those unbelievable numbers that everybody was expecting. Well, week 1, 9 catches, 13 targets, only 69 yards. Okay, we've seen this before in Pittsburgh with a guy named Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy who would get a ton of targets, a ton of catches, but a very low average yards per catch. So all I'm saying is I love Stephon Diggs. Tough dude, unbelievable receiver, runs great routes. He can tiptoe like no other outside on the sideline. But what I can tell you is that you really have to temper expectations going forward. That's why I love right now. Emmanuel Sanders is the most consistent wide receiver on the Buffalo Bills. I was expecting big things for Gabriel Davis. Hasn't happened. He got off to a slow start, got injured. A lot of things happened, right? But Emmanuel Sanders has stepped out of that role. And listen, the one thing about Emmanuel Sanders that everybody has to remember is he could quite possibly be a top 2 route runner in the NFL. One thing he always had was the ability to run crisp routes, whether it be in Pittsburgh, whether it be in Denver, and now in Buffalo. And when you have a young quarterback in Josh Allen, okay, who has a cannon of an arm, who still, even though his accuracy is 10 times better than it was when he first came in the league, still needs a little bit of work. You get a guy like Emmanuel Sanders going across that middle, not afraid to take contact, the ability to go long, the ability to go up and get the ball to separate from coverage and run a route. You know, if you throw the ball, even if it's an inch over, Emmanuel's going to get it. That's a huge plus for a quarterback, especially a young guy like Josh Allen. So right now, Emmanuel Sanders has been the more consistent wide receiver. And if you look at the numbers, why would I pay $7,400 for Stephon Diggs when I could drop $2,000 and get the more consistent receiver in Emmanuel Sanders? Now, this is a different logic when you talk about season long, because obviously Stephon Diggs had a really big price point on him, really big price tag when it comes to your early season drafts. What I mean by that is, the price in value, not actual price unless you're doing an auction draft, right? The price of value. So you have to look at Emmanuel Sanders with a $2,000 less price tag against a Tennessee team that's given up a lot of yards, that's given up a lot of points. This game's going to have a lot of points in it. And Emmanuel Sanders, again, we could be talking 2-touchdown game right here with Emmanuel Sanders. We really could. He's already done it twice this year. Now, he's not getting the catches that Stephon Diggs gets, right? But again, his yards per catch is double of what Stephon Diggs is. And that's what you have to look at. Long passes, 35-21, 41-35. Okay? When you look at Stephon Diggs and you look at his long, is okay, last week had a 61, but besides a 37-13, 13-41, he's not coming close. He's become the consistent outside receiver, and Emmanuel has become the consistent dynamic receiver. So something to keep your eye on. Like them both. I just wanted everybody to temper their expectations going into this year, and I think right now they're seeing why I said to temper them. And again, lock on to that Emmanuel Sanders number at 5,400. I'm telling you right now, you will not be disappointed. It's a great price point when it comes to wide receivers. It really is, especially in the DFS market. John checking in. Should I trade Jonathan Taylor, Robert Woods? Wow. Yo, John. We got to look at this real fast. We've really got to look at this. Should I trade Jonathan Taylor, Robert Woods, and Hollywood Brown for Kamara and Hopkins? Oof. Man, this is a tough one for me, man. This is a tough one. I mean, you're going to have to really look at your roster and see what you absolutely need, because I know people are not going to agree with this statement, but I trust Jonathan Taylor going for it more than I do Alvin Kamara, just because of the team and the way they lean on. Like, I understand, and this is no shot at Alvin Kamara, but Alvin Kamara, to me, I was worried a little bit coming in to this year, only because of the offense, right? Only because of the offense. The offense, it scared me. I'm not sold on Jameis Winston. I'm not. You got to be very careful, when it comes to Alvin Kamara. So, because again, he's got to get you, the targets, the touches. And when you become the only offensive factor on that team, they scheme against you, and it's really hard to break away from a lot of that. What I will say is, I think Jonathan Taylor is more the bell cow back. I think you're seeing this. I mentioned this last night because he's a 6,600 guy this week. And I think, again, he's a no-brainer. If you're talking DFS, he's a no-brainer this week. No-brainer against the Houston Texans. I mean, listen, the thing I like about Jonathan Taylor that I want you to look at when we talk about this trade is 7 targets in 2 weeks. The 2 weeks prior, 2 targets. His targets go up, Nyheim Hines' targets go down. They are slowly but surely inserting Jonathan Taylor into that bell cow back role. They really are. And again, he's going to get you consistent double-digit carries, right? His yards per carry hovering around 4.2, which is not crazy, not exciting. You want it around 4.5 to 5.0, obviously. But he's getting in the end zone, and they're leaning on him in the pass game. And that's something you need to look at going forward. So I don't know if I would do this trade. Again, I know everybody's going to look at it's 2 top 5 guys, right? I don't know. I think obviously I love Hopkins way more than I like Hollywood Brown and Robert Woods. I'm not a Hollywood Brown guy, right? I'm not a Hollywood Brown guy at all, because I think he's touchdown dependent. I really do. Robert Woods, in my opinion, I got to see more. I was real high on Robert Woods coming in, and Cooper Kupp seems to be Matt Stafford's guy. Now, Robert Woods had a great game last week. Let's see another week to see what's going to happen with Robert Woods, right? So we have to look at that as well. Technically, to me, the way I look at this trade is it's Jonathan Taylor for DeAndre Hopkins. So basically what you're doing is you may take a little bit of a hit with Jonathan Taylor for Alvin Kamara, but you're going to take a bigger rise with DeAndre Hopkins for Woods and Brown. So if you want Hopkins, I say do the deal. But if you're doing this for Kamara, I say keep Jonathan Taylor. That's the way I look at this. I hope that helps. Adam wants to know what your opinion on playing Jared McKinnon since Kareem Hunt is questionable. Gene's checking in, says Kareem Hunt is playing, Adam. Nick Chubb out, Kareem Hunt is playing. So again, I think you got to go all cards in with Kareem Hunt. Listen, Kareem Hunt has been an exceptional running back. Okay, even with the split, this is not often. Could you absolutely start two running backs on the same team on a week-to-week basis? Not often. Now, we've seen it in New Orleans with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. You were able to start both of those guys at the same time. You're almost seeing it right now in Cleveland with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, just specifically because of the Kevin Stefanski type of scheme and the way they run their offense. And it's a run-first oriented offense, and those two guys are going to be heavily involved, right? We already know that. But this week, with no Nick Chubb, you're playing at home against Arizona 5-0. Cleveland got shellacked last week. Okay. Who would have thought? A lot of people thought the Chargers wouldn't be able to put up those kind of numbers, but they did. So they're going to be out and hungry to give Arizona its first defeat. Now, what I will say is this is going to be a big Kareem Hunt game, right? A big Kareem Hunt game. At 6,200, I think it's a really good price point in DFS. You absolutely 100%, unless something comes out, which I don't think it will be. Obviously, if Chubb's out, they're going to lean on Kareem Hunt. He's going to play. They're going to get him through the practice. They're going to lean on him. This guy gives you double-digit points with Kareem with Nick Chubb. So, yeah, I'm all in on Kareem Hunt. I love it 100%. Gene says if you trust Taylor more than Kamara, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, I mean, listen, just for the team, Gene. It's just for the team. Mike says, I'm here. You call Diggs a poor man's J-Jaw. No way. Diggs a lot better than that, my man. You know that. A lot better than that. Whale checking in. Wale, should I trade CMC for Tyreek? I have a ton of great running backs on my team. Mixon, Hunt, and Swift, very weak in wide receiver. Oh, man, it's a tough one. You guys are hitting me with the tough ones, and I haven't even gotten to the values yet. You guys are really hitting hard here. So let's do this as a collaborative thing here. Should you trade CMC for Tyreek Hill? So you already have Mixon, Hunt, Swift, right? I would, as much as I'm not, again, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not a Tyreek Hill guy. I'm not. And specifically because Tyreek Hill to me is very inconsistent as a wide receiver. He's up and down. And I know Gene second in says you need more value for CMC. Here's what I'll say about CMC. I don't think CMC is going to finish this year out. And again, I predicted him to take a step back this year. It's why he wasn't my number one ranked running back in fantasy this year. He showed unfortunately, he got dinged up a lot last year. He's already dinged up this year. Soft tissue injuries are not easy to come back from. They're not. And when you have that kind of frame and that body and that stature, and you're trying to run between the tackles consistently, they're going to use him a lot. And I'm afraid that this injury is going to creep up once again. So while I respect Gene and I get what he's saying that you should get more than Tyreek Hill, I think you have to look at this trade on how it helps your team. And right there, you're talking about Mixon, Hunt, Swift. CMC for Tyreek, if you're very weak at wide receiver, sometimes you have to take a hit on that value in order to get somebody good. So if that's what you're getting offered based on your team, I'm telling you what, I would do the deal. I would do the deal, even though I do agree with Gene that you should look for more value than Tyreek Hill. But with the way your team is constructed, I think you do the deal. Honestly, I think you do the deal. Gene also says Woods is on the upswing, in my opinion. Just found chemistry. I think Hollywood will be on the downswing because Bateman is coming back. It's a close trade. I do it, though, because I like Taylor more than Kamara. Listen, I agree with the Woods thing. 100%. It was interesting to see what Stafford was going to do, who he was going to lean on. I did not think he was going to lean on Cooper Kupp, but he leaned on him early. But we've seen this with Cooper Kupp before, the rise to elite stardom, and then all of a sudden the fall back to grace. And I think that's what's going to happen here. Robert Woods is the most consistently targeted wide receiver in the last 3 years. Remember that. The most consistently targeted wide receiver in the last 3 years. He averages 129, second behind the guy in Chicago and Allen Robinson. So he is going to get his targets. That's a number that I put in a lot of perspective in when I did my early preseason mock drafts. And I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to continue to get on the Robert Woods wagon. I drafted him. He's on all my teams. And I agree with Gene. I think it's on the upswing. Okay, so now we talked about the Diggs regression. We just talked about some trades. Good. Keep the comments coming. Keep the trades coming. We can always elaborate and jump off topic. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But sticking with the running backs. How about Khalil Herbert against Green Bay? Nobody else to run the ball in Chicago. Nobody. And I know this is going to be everybody's pick. Now, here's the thing. I was asked this week before the whole COVID thing came out, with Williams and everything going on with the Bears. What do you think of Herbert? Listen, it's hard. He's a split back. Maybe you take a shot. Maybe you take a flyer. But listen, they leaned on him a little last week when a lot of people didn't think that they were going to, right? They leaned on him a lot more than people thought. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had no idea who Khalil Herbert was. I had no idea. Right? I was like, who the hell is Khalil Herbert? Right? Where's this guy coming from? Now, again, I know Gene is a college guy, and I know my man Mark Drumheller, betting for breakfast today. Check it out, 10 o'clock on the Sharp app. All your college football bets, you got to check that out. Okay, one thing I will say, they probably knew who this guy was. I don't. Okay, my man Draftmaster Flex probably knew who this guy was. My man Sia knew who this guy was. I did not know who Khalil Herbert was. Okay, but what he did was he came in at a 4.2 average. He got 18 carries, not 0 targets. Okay, 0 targets, but maybe he gets a few targets this game because there's nobody else. I'm not falling on the null factor at all. This is going to be Herbert's show. Khalil Herbert, not Justin. Okay, so I could definitely see a 20 to 25 carry game from Khalil Herbert. And if that's the case, he's going to get you over 100 yards and he's going to score, and he's under 5,000. So I think for this number at 4,600, the way this game is going to go, listen, that central battle it's going to be, it's always going to be good when you talk about a Green Bay game, okay, in Soldier Field, okay? It's not in the Frozen, in Soldier Field. Right, that's the best part. The NFC North battle between Green Bay and Chicago. Listen, Chicago is only a game out, right? Chicago, as bad as they've played, they're only a game out. Okay, they've only given up 84 points, which is the least amount of points given up. Or 100 points. I'm sorry, the least amount of points given up in the NFC North. They've only scored 84 points, okay, which is not a lot. But again, they're still trying to get their stuff together. You got to take that Cleveland game out. That's a wash, right? We'll see what Nagy has constructed here. They're 2-0 at home. Let's see what happens. But one thing for sure, Khalil Herbert is going to get his points. He's just going to get them, man. 100%. Dante checking. Yo, Dante, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Javon says, I grabbed Khalil Herbert in my keeper league and think he could be. See? Jovan's all over it. These guys are all over it, right? I'm for the now. These guys are looking ahead, man. I love to see it. I love to see these guys looking ahead. As always, Gene checking in. Productive Hook. He transferred out of Kansas. He was decent. He's no Gainwell. Interesting. What the hell happened to Gainwell, by the way? Man, I don't even want to see. Now you struck a nerve, Gene, because you brought up Gainwell, who I thought was going to be a fantastic DFS showdown pick, and did absolutely nothing because Nick Sirianni sucks as a head coach, and he shouldn't even be in the NFL. But again, that's just me. That's a topic for another day. That'll be on the Jigsaw show. By the way, everybody, check it out. If you're not a subscriber, please, Win Daily Sports, sponsored by Win Daily Sports. My man Jason hooking everything up as always. 100%. Check it out. You get 1 free week trial, man. It's right there. I got it all there for you on the tab. 1 week trial, Win Daily Sports right now includes the gold membership. You get everything, projection models, the premium articles, the stats, the projections, the tools, the Discord chat, you name it. A lot of fun stuff going on over there. All you need to do is click on that www.wds.1/live week. It'll take you right there. Hit click free trial. You're good to go. And don't be afraid to tell them Jigsaw sent you. Okay, so how about Myles Gaskin and James Robinson's studs in London in week 6? Could it happen? Let me tell you something, man. You know, again, James Robinson, for a guy who's getting no love. Remember? I was getting no love. You know, everybody was on the ETN wagon. He gets hurt. Now everybody's jumping back on the James Robinson wagon, right? Past 3 games averaging 20-plus points per game. And again, the Dolphins stink this year. They stink. I'll give you a stat given to my boys. And this stat, I don't lie. When I take a stat from somewhere, I give credit. This stat straight from fftoday.com, who says they have allowed the 3rd most rushing yards in 602, 2nd most rushing touchdowns in 6th most receptions in 34, and 8th most receiving yards against opposing backs. That, in my opinion, I know everybody gets a little weary about the London games, but I'm telling you right now, James Robinson is going to be a top 5 back this week. Could be a top 3 back, 100%. Lock him in, load him up, get him in. And how about Myles Gaskin? What does he do this week? Right? He faces the Jaguars team that allows 28-plus points per game from a fantasy perspective. From a fantasy perspective, he gave you 30-plus against the Bucs. Who the hell thought that? I benched his ass. Listen, I benched him. I was like, listen, I was so upset that I looked and seen 0.3 from Myles Gaskin in week 4. I put his ass to the bench. He was a stiff in week 4. I was like, no way am I starting him against the Bucs. And what he's doing, I got to watch him catching touchdowns from that stiff Jacoby Brissett all day long, little dink and dunks. Who would have thought? Will he be that guy again? I don't know, but what I can tell you, 28 fantasy points per game is a lot of points given up from an opposing team for an opposing running back. So you got to get him in your lineup, okay? You got to get him in your lineup 100%. Now let's end this on my sleeper pick of the week, my sleeper stud of the week. Okay, I absolutely love this guy. I would go out and get a shirt if it didn't have a sexual innuendo to it. But my man from the Indianapolis Colts, yeah, we're going, baby. We're going with Mo Alley-Cox. Mo Cox now. We want Mo Cox. Mo Alley-Cox. 3,100 versus Houston. Listen, you've seen us talk about the Robert Woods, and we talked about the Cooper Kupp thing based on chemistry. Right? We already talked about that based on chemistry. We talked about it because we said, listen, it takes time for a quarterback and a new system. It takes time for a quarterback and an offensive line to get their cadence down, to get their scheme down, to get that camaraderie, to gel, to mesh. I love what's going on in Indianapolis right now. As much as it pains me to see Carson Wentz actually looking like the Carson Wentz of old, what he's doing is, again, he's going to make Mo Cox into his Zach Ertz. You watch. It's going to happen, man. It is going to happen. I'm telling you, 100%. It's going to happen. The last 2 weeks, he has started to come forward to the table. And, listen, I'm a wrestling guy, so it's like Roman Reigns, head of the table. Mo Alley-Cox is starting to be the head of the table in Indianapolis. 9 targets in 2 weeks. He's starting to give you that 40 to 50 yards average. He's getting up their yards per catch at 15 plus and double touchdowns. Let me tell you something. You are going to be sitting here in 3 weeks and saying, damn, Jigsaw, I should have went on the Mo Cox train, and I should have understood what Jigsaw was saying, and I should have picked him up. If you're not picking him up, you need to pick him up now. I'm telling you, we're going to have him as a consistent starter on our roster for the rest of the year. Remember, he did this before. Okay, he did this before when Rivers was locking in on all three of those tight ends out there, but Mo Alley Cox was always a guy to get those red zone targets. Carson Wentz made Zach Ertz into a Hall of Fame target machine when it comes to fantasy. And I'm telling you now, there's no Tyreek. I mean, there's no T.Y. Hilton. Okay. He is going to lock in on Mo Alley Cox going forward. This dude's going to get 5 to 10 targets every single week. And I'm telling you, man, this is a guy, 3,100 this week. He's against the Houston Texans, who have the inability to cover anybody. You got to get him in. You got to get him in a lineup. 100%. Gene says Marlon Mack is a very good sleeper to add. You know what's funny, Gene? I'm going to tell you something. Me and Gene are on the same wavelength. And again, me and Gene don't talk on the phone. We don't text. We don't do none of that. This just comes from guys that follow the game, right? I told 2 people specifically 2 weeks ago, pick up Marlon Mack and stash him on the bench. Stash it because he's going to be a starter somewhere. I don't know where it's going to be, but he's going to be a starter somewhere. He looks fantastic. He does. He is primed to go off. He's going to go to a team that needs a running back. Now, I know Gene's saying Kansas City. I hope not, because that's going to put my Jerick McKinnon pick to rest. Okay, but he's going to go somewhere. Maybe it's Chicago. I don't know. We should see. Gene says with CEH fumbling now hurt, he's going to go. Listen, I still think, Gene, I'm going to stick to my Jerick McKinnon pick. I still think McKinnon's going to be the number 1 running back in Kansas City by year end. I'm telling you, I have that firm belief that that's the way it's going to go down. He is an Andy Reid type of running back, and as long as his knees are good and he's healthy, he's going to get that first share. But Marlon Mack will be traded. I agree. And wherever he goes, he's going to be a starting running back. Look out. You're going to wish that you had him on your bench. The Prince, second, I'm late. Yo, Prince, it's all good, man. You always watch us on replay. You know that. Well, I'll go through the review of the picks that I have, and then you can watch. You go to we talked about a lot. Not to catch you up, not a big deal. Dora King said, do I take a chance with Dalvin Cook this week? Also have McLaurin. Man, listen, let me tell you something. I love Taylor Heinicke. Right? You're talking about McLaurin, which is great because Taylor Heinicke has been really good. Don't look at last week. Please don't look at last week and tell me, oh, what about last week? Listen, take that out of the equation. Okay, I get it. Two interceptions, no touchdowns. I understand. What we had to look at is the last 2 weeks. Okay, the 40+ yards rushing. Okay, the ability to get out of the pocket, the ability to be mobile. Right, the ability to throw, except for that week 3. 212. We can't talk about week 1 because he didn't play the entire game. So let's go 2 to 5. Without that 212, he's over 240 consistently. I gave this number out on the Sharp app of an over and under 287.5 rush and pass for a really good -115 hit on DraftKings when we're talking about the prop bet market. And the reason why is because he's automatically going to run the ball for 30 to 40 yards a game. He really is. And again, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound crazy, but he's a poor man's Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts, as much as we know in Philadelphia, he really has to really beef up his arm strap, beef up his accuracy. But no matter what, he's a fancy scoring machine. The guy only threw for 115 yards and still gave you 20+, right? Taylor Heinicke is that kind of guy. He's going to get you the rush touchdowns. He's going to get you the rush yards. He's going to throw at least 2 touchdowns per game. He's going to get you 200 to 250 yards every game. So right away, you're already stepping into a guy who's going to give you 20+ easily. Every now and then, take a step back. Not a big deal. If you look at the 3 games in between, 26, 26, 31. That a really good score from Taylor Heinicke, and he's only 5,800. He's only 5,800 on DraftKings. So a really good pick. So you talked about Terry McLaurin. Now, again, Scary Terry was another guy that I was iffy about. What's he going to do this year, right? Because again, we were talking about preseason and Ryan Fitzpatrick. And, I like Terry McLaurin a lot. One thing to look an eye on, again, and I know you're probably asking this because of the hamstring, right? So he did miss practice on Friday. We always going to have to look at those soft tissue injuries and really dive deep into them. and see what's going to go on. We really do. That's the hard part. We really got to watch that. The hamstrings scare the hell out of me. They really do. So if Terry McLaurin plays, obviously against Kansas City, who's giving up 30-plus points a game, you have to start him 100%. There's no end for buts. What I will tell you is it's only 9:55 a.m. on the East Coast right now. You got to check out Washington. Look at their beat reporters, check out their injury reports at about 1, 2 o'clock after their final practice goes, and see what he's looking like going into tomorrow. If he's still questionable, then you're really going to have to look at very, very close with a microscope tomorrow morning to figure out, will he play or will he not? Now, when we talk about Dalvin Cook, it's the same thing. Will he play? Yes, obviously. The ankle is going to be a problem. The ankle is going to be a problem. And here's the other issue. Alexander Madison has absolutely been fantastic filling in for Dalvin Cook. So Zimmer knows that. Zimmer knows Cook is his bread and butter, but he also knows he wants to preserve Dalvin Cook for the long haul. So you're going to get into a situation where those 20 to 25 carries and 10 targets now may be 12 to 15 carries and 4 to 5 targets. So are you willing to be able to take that hit from his fantasy value? Or do you have somebody that you feel is going to be above those numbers? That's what you have to look at. So obviously, if these guys are ready to roll, you start them. I know you already know that, but I think you have to also look at who else you have to be able to make an educated opinion on what to do. That's just my opinion. I think you have to be really, really careful with something like that. Matt checking in says, wow, I love these trades. Matt, keep them coming, man. I love when everybody checking in with these trades. I absolutely love them. So Matt says, trade Herbert, Mike Davis, Corey Davis, and A.J. Brown for Chubb and D-Hop. So I have Hurts already. Man, let me tell you something. Justin Herbert, and here's what I'm going to say. Justin Herbert, quite possibly, will be the number 1 fantasy quarterback this year. It's going to be neck and neck with him and Josh Allen. Listen, I know Lamar Jackson is going off here and there, but I still don't think he will be able to do that. But if you already have Jalen Hurts, right? If you already have Jalen Hurts, and again, everybody's going to say Jalen Hurts, he stinks. As they're going to say, but remember, we're talking fantasy football, people. We're not talking about NFL caliber quarterback. We're talking about fantasy football. Jalen Hurts, I said in the beginning of the year, as long as he starts every game, will be a top 7 fantasy quarterback this year. He is on track right now to be a top 6. Okay, you take that difference and you look at guys like Mike Davis, worthless, meaningless. Corey Davis, I'm sorry, I can't trust anybody in the New York Jets under Zach Wilson, right? We don't know what he's going to be this year. It's way too inconsistent. A.J. Brown, who I love, was my 5th ranked receiver in the preseason. Right now, he's got the injury bug. So it's really hard. And you're talking about D-Hop, man. You're talking about D-Hop. Like, D-Hop is the most consistent receiver in the game. So 100%, I do this deal. As much as I love Justin Herbert, I love me some Justin Herbert, but you have the luxury of having Jalen Hurts, which is only going to be about 4 or 5 notches off the Herbert wagon. Okay, when we talk about end of year stats. Okay, so what 100%. The only thing I will tell you, here's going to be the one carrot I'll give you to think about before you hit send. And I don't know if I know Gene's checking in, he agrees with me, but I don't know if he's going to agree with this or not. The one thing you need to look at is make sure that Jalen Hurts finishes this season as the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the only reason why I say that is if the Philadelphia Eagles right now in a meaningless year decide that they may have to bench Jalen Hurts and start Gardner Minshew, there could be a problem with this trade, right? That's the only thing. Listen, very small. I'm just throwing it out there, okay? But if Jalen Hurts continues to play the way he is as a fantasy level, It's 100%. 100%, man. 100%. Gene, I know you say they ain't starting them, but you better be careful. You never know. When coaches who know that they can get fired after 1 year now, that is a thing. 1 year, that is a thing. Be careful. They will pull out all stops. That's all I'm saying. They will pull all stops. So what I mean is right now, I feel as though Jalen Hurts is in the wrong system. Jalen Hurts is not showing what he showed us weeks 14, 15, and 16. That's because this head coach is an ass clown, okay? And he has no idea what he's doing. And that could be, unfortunately, a negative to Jalen Hurts because even though I don't agree with Flacco or Minshew, whatever you want to call them, what I will say is when a head coach trying to save his job, you just never know what he's going to do. But if Hurts is in there, which I still feel he will be, this is a no-brainer trade. You got to make that trade today. Hit send, please. Hit send and let me know how it works out. Now, MP second in says, is Eli Mitchell a good waiver pickup? I mean, listen, dude, the whole San Francisco backfield is a train wreck. Okay. It's a train wreck, man. Like, I don't even know what to think of it. I don't. I don't know what to think of it anymore. My whole listen, I don't know what to say. Yeah, I mean, take a shot. All I can say, take a shot. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. Kyle Shanahan is an absolute wild card, right? He's an absolute wild card. You don't know what he's thinking. You never know what he's thinking, right? Obviously, they have a bye this week, so we'll see what happens next week. But again, I mean, this is a very fluid situation. Very fluid situation. All right. He was active last week and he dominated the snaps. He did. He 100% was the guy who got the most. That's what you have to look at. You have to look at who's getting the rock more. He had 19 in week 1. He had 17 weeks. Obviously, they liked him as the guy until he gets hurt in his first week activated. He gets 9, but only 9. What's that saying? That was the most in the backfield. He got 9. So you have to honestly look at this and say, how are you going to use them? If you have a spot on your bench, because Kyle Shanahan is known to hitch his wagon to certain guys if they're going off, and that's what Elijah Mitchell did. Listen, his first week, 104, 5.5 yards per carry. That is a no-brainer number 1 running back territory. But it's just, the word was always, okay, always was that Trey Sermon was going to be the guy. But he only got the ball 1 time, right? So the one thing, again, I'm going to go back to the beginning of our conversation where sometimes it's not about stats and sometimes it's about the eye factor. And the one thing about Elijah Mitchell was he was explosive when he got the ball. 100% explosive. He looked the most explosive out of that backfield. So for me, in my opinion, why not? Right? Why not pick him up? Because I agree with Gene with this one. He's the only guy to roster in that backfield. Exactly. So why not pick him up? Why not pick him up? Now, here's a great question. Oh, I love these. These are, listen, we're going to close the show out with this. I like this. Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney for the New York Giants. This is interesting. Or Lockett in the flex. Oh, man, this is tough. This is so tough, but I got to stick to my guns here, and I got to go back and talk about the Geno Smith factor. We talked about it early, that Geno Smith is going to 100% lock in on DK Metcalf. I predicted a long game to Freddie Swain. I think Lockett's going to be the forgotten guy. He's a very inconsistent wide receiver, and right now, you cannot look away from what Kadarius Toney did last week. You can't. You can't look away. Now, again, he got a little bumpy ankle. Okay. One thing you have to look at, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton both back at practice. Okay. Sterling Shepard, before he went out, was the number 1 wide receiver on his team. I love me some Sterling Shepard. Love me some Sterling Shepard. But what you have to look at, 13 targets, 10 catches. 189 yards. He's not going to get 189 yards, right? He's not going to get 10 catches. But here's what I look at. In 2 weeks, 22 targets. Daniel Jones, lock it in on Kadarius Toney. Okay, 22 targets, 16 catches, 15 yard per catch average. This is a guy who showed, again, a lot of people thought, who is Kadarius Toney? Like, when they didn't get Devontae Smith, we've seen it, everybody was freaking out. Well, guess what? Kadarius Toney looks pretty damn good, man. Kadarius Toney looks pretty damn good. So we'll see what happens with Slayton. We'll see what happens with Sterling Shepard, who I still think is going to be, a target monster. But I got to go Kadarius Toney. I'm riding the hot hand 100%. Again, I think that's exactly the guy you want to zone in on. If he's hot, I always ride the horse until he falls off the track. Ride the horse, see what happens. And again, you never know. Now, you asked about Carson Wentz and Kirk Cousins. Now, here's a very, very interesting question, because everybody knows on here, if you follow me, I am not a Kirk Cousins guy, right? I'm not a Kirk Cousins guy. So what I have to look at is the matchups. So you're going up against Carolina, Kirk Cousins at Carolina. You're Carson Wentz home against Houston. For this week, based on the matchup, Carolina is not happy with the game they played against the Philadelphia Eagles. They're not happy against that loss. Matt Rule is going back in and saying, yo, this can't happen. We have to go out and show who we really are. We made our mark as a really good defensive team. Jeremy Chin, I'm going to call it right now, pick 6 against Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins doesn't like to get hit. Once he gets hit, he's shaky, right? And I think he's going to get hit a couple times out here. I think it's going to throw him off his game. So I'm going to go with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, again, he passed the eye test for me. He looked really good. He had those throws on a run. And if you look at his fantasy numbers, except for week 3, he's been consistently in 20 or more. 20 or more. His last 2 weeks, he's starting to get healthy. Listen, he's got a 74% completion percentage. Okay, 74% completion percentage. 24 for 32 and 25 for 35. Listen, they are fantastic numbers. He's going to throw the ball 35 plus in this game. Even if they get up early, they're still going to throw the ball. Double touchdown game. I'm going to tell you right now. Here's my line for Carson Wentz for this game. 313 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm calling a 3 touchdown game for my man Carson Wentz, and I'm calling at least one of them goes to my man Mo Cox. Okay, so yeah, I'm 100% on the Carson Wentz wagon this week. 100%. Gene, I disagree. I don't think Cousins has a better chance, in my opinion, just going on the factor that Carolina is going to want to step up and show that loss, that's not who they really are. So, and again, Kirk Cousins goes like this, man. Kirk Cousins is up and down, up and down. He's 39, 25-2, right? So again, I don't buy into the Kirk Cousins thing. So I'm 100%. I'm going to go with Carson Wentz this week. Jovan second in says in one of my DFS lineups, he's got Burrow, who I like Burrow this week. I really do. T. Higgins, Cooper Kupp. You got Darrell Henderson, Michael Pittman Jr., and Hubbard. And Eric Pittman Jr., I think Michael Pittman Jr. has a big game this week. This could be a double touchdown week for Michael Pittman Jr. Chuba Hubbard, listen, again, he hasn't been what everybody thought he was going to be, the Mike Davis in Carolina. He's not, but at least he's going to get the ball. Cooper Kupp, is it going to be Woods or Kupp? It's going to be interesting. I'm still going to lean towards Woods, right? Certainly towards Woods, but I love the Burrow T. Higgins stack because I think Cincinnati is going to score a lot of points this week. It just says Heinicke or Burrow. Oh, man. Dude, you guys are killing me, man. These are like, you guys are taking guys are like neck and neck to me, man. Neck and neck to me. Is it going to be Burrow? Is it going to be Heinicke? I'm going to go Taylor Heinicke. I am. I'm going to go, even though I think Burrow is going to have a good game, I think Taylor Heinicke blows up this week. I do. I'm going to 280, 285, couple touchdowns, maybe about 50 rushing yards. This is going to be a 30-plus point week from Taylor Heinicke. And I don't think Burrow's going to hit 30 when it comes to that. And again, look at the DFS factor. Taylor Heinicke, 5,800 as opposed to Joe Burrow, who is 6,300. So you could save yourself, again, $500-$600 depending on what book you use, and drop down and get Taylor Heinicke, who in my opinion is going to give you more points. His points per game average is already higher. I think the matchup is better. They're playing in Washington. Taylor Heinicke, again, this is going to be a 3-touchdown game, 1 rush, 2 throwing, 280 yards, 50 yards rushing. I'm calling it right there. Taylor Heinicke is my guy. We got a lot of good questions coming in. Pick one flex PPR. Tony, Lockett, Pittman, Myers, Woods, Hollywood Brown. Wow. That's a huge list, man. That's a huge list. I'm going to go Tony or Woods. For PPR, I'm going to go Tony or Woods. That's what I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go Tony or Woods. 100%. I really do. I think that both of those guys are going to be PPR monsters this week. I'm really intrigued with Robert Woods going forward as well. I was a big Robert Woods guy in the preseason. I really love to see how he got inserted big time into the offense last week, and I think it's going to continue. I do. So I like Woods, and I like Tony, man. He's been a target monster over 2 weeks, so I completely agree, man. Completely agree. DJ Dog checking in. Kareem Hunt interest with Chubb out. We talked about that earlier. Kareem Hunt 100% lock. 100%. The guy's a stud with Nick Chubb, and without Nick Chubb now. Listen, Cleveland got embarrassed last week. They're not happy they lost. I know that had nothing to do with the offense, but Kareem Hunt is going to have a really, really good game this week. I don't think there's anybody who's going to disagree. Again, and I understand he's nicked up a little bit, okay? But even though he's nicked up, it's a risk. Listen, with Nick Chubb out, this kid is going to play. And again, I know Arizona's got a really good defense, but they're 5-0, man. Eventually something's going to have to give a little bit. And I think this could be the week where Cleveland goes out. Baker Mayfield's been highly efficient. They're going to give Kareem Hunt probably 15 to 18 carries. He's going to get 6 to 8 targets. That's running back one territory. Okay, the last 3 weeks, he's averaging 23 plus from a DraftKings perspective. Season long, 20 plus. This is the guy you lean on this week, 100% as your RB1. And he's a really good value in DFS of 6,200. He's under that $7,000 number. So you save $800 for one of those top tier backs, and I think you do get RB1 potential, 100%. Dalvin Cook is back. Yes, offense plays better with Cook for some reason. Agree or not? I do. 100% because they can lean on Dalvin Cook, but what I'm afraid of is Dalvin Cook is not 100%, right? So when you have an ankle injury, I know he's going to be heavily taped. He's going to work it out. And they showed that Madison was very good in subbing in for Dalvin Cook. I still think that game against Carolina is going to be a very interesting game in Carolina. I think they're going to clamp down the defensive side of the ball. I think this could be one of those Kirk Cousins games where you go, oh, man, Kirk, 12, 13. Come on, Kirk, you're better than that. It's what happens, right? You have to be very careful with Kirk Cousins. It's just my opinion. Kirk Cousins, over the years, he can be very good and elite, and he can be very bad. I mean, the last 2 weeks, he's only had 11 and 14. The last 2 weeks, he's giving you 1-1. That's not Kirk Cousins' numbers. Only twice this year has he gone 3 touchdowns or more. That's the Kirk Cousins you want, but you're not going to get that Kirk Cousins this week. It's not going to happen. It's not. He's right now, I predict this is going to be a 1 or 2 touchdown game at most for Kirk Cousins. I don't expect it to happen. And again, even if Dalvin Cook is back and that offense looks better, they're still going to go up against a defense that's pretty stingy. Okay, and they're going to want to make their mark because of that goose egg they threw up against Philadelphia. Being back home in Carolina is a way for them to get back on track. So I just don't expect Kirk Cousins to have a huge game. I just don't. Just not my opinion. Lawrence is back. Lawrence is on waivers. Wentz or oh, okay. You're saying Lawrence on waivers. Okay. Listen, I can't trust Trevor Lawrence right now. I think James Robinson has a big game. 100%. They're going to lean on that. I 100% look at Carson Wentz. He's been solid the last 2 games. He's starting to get his health back within. I see him on the run making some throws. That's where Carson Wentz is in his comfort zone. He is 100% the guy you want to go with this week moving forward over Trevor Lawrence. There's no problems with that. Thoughts on this trade? And again, we're about an hour right now. We're going to finish this up in a minute. I received Cooper and I give up Hunt. My running backs are CMC and Antonio Gibson. Listen, if you are weak on wide receiver, I 100% you make that trade, because even though Kareem Hunt is really good, you're giving up an RB2 for a wide receiver 1, right? Even though Kareem Hunt is really good, he still has Nick Chubb. Even though he's still productive with Nick Chubb, he's still an RB2, maybe an RB1B, but wide receiver 1 is Cooper Kupp. Or you're talking, oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about Amari Cooper. I mean, it all depends on what your situation is, right? It all depends on what your situation is. If you need a solid wide receiver, then by all means, you're going to go with a guy on a very prolific offense, right? Very prolific offense. And you look at Amari Cooper and you say, okay, has he been consistent? I don't know, man. You got to be very careful, right? I'm looking at 3 games in the middle. We're only talking about 12 targets a game, right? You're talking about 4 games in a row with only 3 catches. What is Amari Cooper? That's you have to be careful. I look at Dak Prescott, who's very linked to his tight ends now in Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz. He's really like it. I see Cedric Wilson starting to make a little bit of a jump. Now, I understand that, Amari Cooper's dealing with that ankle injury, and that could be hurting his production, but I think you need to be very wary. If we're talking about Amari Cooper, I don't know if I make that trade, but if you're talking about Cooper Kupp, I'm not sure what Cooper we're talking about. I would go in on Cooper Kupp for that trade, but I would not trade Amari Cooper. I would not trade Kareem Hunt for Amari Cooper. My receivers are Godwin and Cooks. Yeah, Godwin is solid. And Brandon Cooks, he can finish as the top 5 receiver this year with the amount of targets he's going to get in Houston. So I wouldn't make that trade. I really wouldn't. How big of a thing does DK take with Wilson out? Jet lag. We talked about that a little earlier. One thing I will say is DK, I think, takes a huge leap up. I think Lockett takes the ding. I think DK Metcalf is going to be the guy that gets locked in by Geno Smith 100%. So I think you need to look at. I like DK. I actually like his value go up. I think Lockett goes down. And I like Freddie Swain's value going forward as well. So check that out. Last question of the day before we get out of here on the Fantasy Firebox. Also, Eckler interest this week for DFS. Also, Henderson over Hubbard. Yes, Henderson over Hubbard. Henderson has proved that he is a RB1B when healthy. I cannot trust Chuba Hubbard. I like how the offense is rolling. And again, the Giants are 30th against the run when we're talking about fantasy football. So 100% Darrell Henderson over Chuba Hubbard. Okay, that is a no-brainer in my opinion, 100%. And Austin Eckler, ride the Eckler train. I don't care if it gets Baltimore. Did you see how many points Baltimore gave up? How many yards they're giving up? That is not the same defense. Austin Eckler has becoming the go-to fantasy running back. Again, called it in the beginning of the year. I'm going to stick to it. He is a top 4 running back. Could finish as top 3. Again, 34 and 33 points the last 2 weeks is nothing to sneeze about. He's going to continue. He's getting the rushing yards. That's you have to look at. This is what he wasn't getting. This is not Anthony Lynn's offense anymore. Staley has got these guys balling. He knows who his bread and butter is, and that is Austin Eckler. So again, start him with confidence. Listen, fellas, I'm going to get out of here, man. So Tony or Woods PPR, if I had a lead, if I had to lean, Patty, as much as it pains me, oh man, I'm probably going to go Tony. I know. You know what? No, I'm not going to. I'm going to go Woods. 100% Woods and PPR because Shepard and Slayton are coming back this week. like I said, because they're coming back this week, 100%. I think that Woods is going to be your PPR guy. I think you have to take him 100%. Hawkinson listen, Hawkinson all day. Hawkinson all day. I would never start him over Arnold. Hawkinson all day, in my opinion. And again, the London games, they always scare me. So, they just do, man. They just do. It's funny when we talk about those games, unless you're a running back, I get really, really scared. And I know he's playing Jacksonville, and I know that all of a sudden he has a great impact and influence on Trevor Lawrence, but I got to go with where my bread is buttered, and that's TJ Hawkinson 100%. Pat, love the stream, my man. Thanks for checking it out. Check out all the streams on Win Daily Sports. As always, I love this platform. Glad to be back. Listen, Ron, let me know how you make out. You're welcome, man. Let me know how it makes out going forward. As always, let me get out of here, guys. Win Daily Sports, Fantasy Firebox. Again, let's go through these 100, these picks one last time. Jamal Williams, 4,900 against Cincinnati. Mo Cox, give me Mo Cox all day long. 3,100 versus Houston. A sneaky play in Freddie Swain at 3,400 against Pittsburgh. Khalil Herbert, the only guy in Chicago to run the ball this week. 4,600 against Green Bay, and start these studs, Gaskin and Robinson in week 6 in London. They are going to blow up. Again, I'm your host, Tony Jigsaw Cutillo. Give me a follow at TCutillo23. Follow us at Win Daily Sports. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And again, get 1 week trial for free of Win Daily Sports right now. Includes the gold membership that gives you all the benefits of the Discord chats, the projection models, the builds, you name it, all the unbelievable articles. There it is, www.dwds.1/live week. As always, I am signing out. Everybody enjoy your Saturday. This is the Fantasy Firebox, hosted by Tony Jigsaw Cutillo. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you next Saturday.